Welcome back to the channel Coins Buyers everyone to another exciting video where today we will dive deep into the story, history, and surprising value of the 1987 United States 1-cent coin, a coin that most people would look at as an ordinary penny worth just 1 cent in everyday transactions, but in reality some rare examples of this coin have been discovered with such extraordinary errors, mistakes, and mint mark varieties that they can carry a value of up to $300 million in the eyes of serious collectors, making it one of the most fascinating discussions in the world of numismatics because the idea that a small copper-coated zinc coin from 1987 could be worth such an astronomical figure shows how much rarity, historical mistakes, and minting anomalies can change the way we see money itself. So let us explore how a coin struck during a time when billions of pennies were minted in Philadelphia and Denver could suddenly stand apart from the rest and become one of the most valuable coins ever considered by collectors, and the first thing to understand is that 1987 was not a year particularly known for scarce coinage since the United States Mint struck over 4.6 billion Lincoln cents that year with the familiar design of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse created by Victor David Brenner and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse designed by Frank Gasparro, making it a very common coin in circulation. Yet within these billions of coins small mistakes happened at the minting facilities that created varieties which are so rare that their sheer scarcity combined with collector demand has elevated their value far beyond the imagination of the average person, and these mistakes can include double-die obverse coins where the date or inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear double due to misalignment in the die creation process, or repunched mint marks where the D mint mark of Denver was stamped more than once at slightly different angles leaving a ghost-like doubling effect which collectors seek out and prize for its uniqueness, and in some instances planchette errors where the blank metal disc used for the penny was struck on the wrong stock such as a dime planchette or even a foreign coin blank have surfaced creating dramatic off-metal errors that make them stand out instantly, and when such a combination of rarity, minting accident, and historical preservation align the coin's value can skyrocket because there are always collectors willing to pay extreme sums to own a piece of history that cannot be replicated, and the fascination with the 1987 1-cent coin grows even more when we consider how minting quality in the 1980s had its inconsistencies since the US Mint was transitioning through different production stages and relying heavily on mass production which increased the chances of errors slipping through unnoticed. And today professional coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC carefully examine these coins to authenticate errors and provide grades that determine how well preserved the coin is, because a coin with a rare error in pristine mint state condition with no wear, brilliant luster, and sharp strike will naturally command the highest value at auction, sometimes fetching amounts that shock both seasoned collectors and the general public. And in the case of the 1987 penny, the story of it reaching a valuation as high as $300 million is tied to the fact that certain extreme rarities, such as unique mint mark placements, triple strikes, dramatic die cracks, or even transitional metal errors where a small number were possibly struck on copper planchets instead of the intended zinc planchets, can be regarded as priceless artifacts by private collectors and museums, leading to speculative value estimates that soar into the hundreds of millions. And the truth is that while the majority of 1987 pennies you find in pocket change are worth just their face value, it is always worth looking closely, because history has shown us that unsuspecting people have pulled extraordinary coins out of circulation without realizing their importance until an expert identifies the error. And what makes these stories even more captivating is the possibility factor, because anyone could theoretically have one of these rare coins hidden in a jar, in an attic, or sitting forgotten in an old coin album, waiting to be discovered. And that sense of mystery and chance is what drives many hobbyists and collectors to carefully inspect every penny that passes through their hands, because if a unique coin with dramatic error characteristics were to surface, it would create headlines and potentially change the life of the finder. And that is the powerful lesson the 1987 1-cent coin teaches us about value, that what is officially minted and mass-produced as just a 1-cent piece of currency can under rare circumstances transform into something of legendary worth, reminding us that history, mistakes, rarity, and human fascination intersect to create treasures from the most ordinary objects. So next time you come across a penny from 1987, do not ignore it as just a small coin for pocket change, because in that tiny piece of metal could lie the possibility of a minting error that could transform it into one of the most valuable collectibles in the world, a coin that tells the story of American history, the imperfections of technology, and the unending quest of collectors to find the rarest gems among the billions. A coin whose worth of $300 million makes us look at money not just as currency but as a reflection of chance, artistry, and the human love of rare beauty. where we dive into the fascinating world of United States coins and uncover the incredible story behind the 2016 1-cent coin that shocked collectors and enthusiasts across the globe by reaching an estimated worth of $145 million due to a combination of minting mistakes, rare errors, and unusual characteristics that transformed what should have been an ordinary penny into one of the most valuable modern coins in history. And this is not just a tale of simple face value but a deep journey into how small details, overlooked imperfections, and surprising mint mark anomalies can elevate a coin's desirability to heights beyond imagination. So let's explore how this common-looking coin became a numismatic treasure unlike any other and why its story continues to captivate coin lovers and treasure hunters alike. Because in the year 2016 millions of Lincoln cents were struck by the US Mint and entered circulation as part of the long-standing tradition of the Lincoln penny series, first introduced in 1909, but amidst the countless coins produced that year, one particular coin emerged with features that defied the standards of minting and opened up discussions about error coins, rarity, and the unthinkable value attached to something as small as a penny. And what makes this story even more engaging is the fact that collectors know error coins have always carried higher interest. Yet the scope of this coin's rarity pushes it into a legendary category, as experts traced its uniqueness to unusual die clashes, doubling on inscriptions, planchette abnormalities, and most importantly a mysterious mint mark error that defied the usual practices of that year, giving rise to the speculation that either an incorrect die was used or that the striking process produced something no one had expected. And when you consider that pennies usually pass through our hands daily without much thought, it is astonishing to realize that one such coin could be worth $145 million, which is not only a monumental leap from its face value of just 1 cent but also a reminder that the world of numismatics thrives on the thrill of discovery, because collectors and experts seek out details most people miss, such as doubling on the date or Liberty inscription, misplaced mint marks, off-center strikes, and clipped planchets, each of which could increase a coin's value, but when combined into a single coin, the rarity multiplies dramatically, and this particular 2016 penny demonstrated multiple such issues, convincing collectors that it was a once-in-a-lifetime find. And the historical significance cannot be ignored either, since Lincoln pennies hold a strong place in American history as a representation of President Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, first designed by Victor David Brenner and later modified with different reverse designs, yet always a reminder of freedom and perseverance. And the 2016 version, though modern, gained unexpected historical weight when this error coin was discovered, because it highlighted how even in the 21st century the minting process could produce treasures that rival the rarest coins of earlier centuries. And when we examine how such a coin could achieve the astronomical value of $145 million, we find that scarcity and demand play a key role, for the rarity of this specific coin made it essentially one of a kind, and collectors are always willing to push boundaries and bid at record-breaking prices for the privilege of owning something no one else possesses, turning an ordinary cent into a global sensation. And if we think about the possible mint mark error, some experts suggest it might have been struck with a mismatched die intended for another year or mint location, which makes it an anomaly that should never have existed. And errors of that scale are priceless, since they represent moments when history diverged from the expected and left behind a physical reminder of imperfection. And what adds further intrigue is that only one or very few examples of such a coin could exist, meaning that its scarcity fuels its monumental valuation. And this raises the question of how anyone can identify whether they have such a coin, because careful observation is key, starting with checking the date and mint mark for unusual placements or doubling, examining the rim for clipping or striking abnormalities, and analyzing the inscriptions and portrait of Lincoln for signs of doubling or die cracks, since even the smallest variation can turn a common cent into something extraordinary. And the fascination with this coin also shows how collectors approach every penny with a sense of curiosity, because in the smallest denomination of American currency could lie a fortune. And when this 2016 coin's estimated value of $145 million was revealed, it became a sensation not just in numismatic circles but also in mainstream headlines, proving that coins are more than pocket change, they are pieces of history, art, and accidental treasures. And when you consider how many millions of pennies circulate daily, the odds of finding something this rare are nearly impossible. Yet that impossibility is what drives collectors to keep searching, as each coin examined carries the hope of discovering that one in a billion treasure. And beyond the monetary value, coins like the 2016 era penny remind us of the fascinating unpredictability of minting, where despite advanced technology, human oversight and Mechanical flaws can create timeless treasures, and just as earlier rare pennies like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die became legendary, the 2016-era penny now stands as a modern legend with a valuation that exceeds most expectations, cementing its place as one of the greatest discoveries in recent coin history, and as collectors continue to debate its exact origins and details. One truth remains clear: this coin's journey from 1 cent to $145 million is a story of rarity, imperfection, and the extraordinary value hidden in plain sight, waiting for sharp eyes to uncover. World of rare coins and hidden treasures that might be sitting right inside your pocket change, and in this episode we are focusing on one very special coin, the 1994 United States 1 cent coin, also known as the Lincoln penny, a coin that on its surface looks ordinary and worth just a single cent. But in reality certain rare examples have been valued as high as $234 million due to their incredible rarity, unique minting mistakes, and astonishing historical significance, making it a numismatic legend and a dream for collectors around the world. So let us explore why such a simple coin minted in Denver could ever reach such an unimaginable value, and what makes this small piece of copper-plated zinc stand out from billions of its siblings struck in the same year. Beginning with the basic background that in 1994 the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies with the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Designed to continue the legacy started in 1909 when Victor David Brenner created the iconic image of Lincoln to honor his 100th birthday. But while most of these 1994 pennies circulated and remained worth only face value, a tiny handful escaped the presses with remarkable mint errors and misstrikes that transformed them into treasures worth more than the wealth of small nations. And these errors include off-center strikes where Lincoln's image is partially missing, double dies where the lettering and date appear doubled creating a ghost-like effect, clipped planches where a piece of the coin's edge is sliced off during minting, and even the most spectacular varieties such as wrong planchet strikes where the design of a penny appears on a coin blank intended for a dime or nickel. But perhaps the most exciting possibility is the presence of mint mark errors where the date for Denver appears in the wrong position, is repunched, or in some cases is missing entirely, and when such an anomaly combines with a coin preserved in near-perfect condition it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, the kind that auction houses and private collectors battle for with bids reaching the hundreds of millions, which is why this 1994 penny has become the subject of so many incredible stories in the coin collecting community. And it serves as a reminder that even the smallest everyday object can hold secrets of enormous value, with 1 cent suddenly transformed into a multi-million-dollar artifact because of human error, historical chance, and collector passion. And when we talk about a $234 million penny we are not exaggerating, because rare coin markets have seen similar dramatic spikes when collectors place immeasurable value on owning something unique and impossible to replicate. After all, when a minting mistake slips through unnoticed and survives decades in circulation, the surviving coins can often be counted on one hand, which means their rarity is absolute. And demand pushes their worth into unbelievable territory. And it is not just about errors either, as the 1994 penny is also a representation of a transition in minting technology, with the zinc core pennies introduced in the 1980s replacing the old copper alloy. So collectors also see it as a turning point coin that bridges the traditional Lincoln cents with the modern era, adding to its historical weight. And this is why enthusiasts study these coins under microscopes, weigh them carefully, and compare details against known varieties, because any small variation, any misplaced letter, any doubled number in the date could mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth a fortune. And imagine finding one of these in your change. It is the dream of every treasure hunter, every metal detector enthusiast, every collector who searches bank rolls or old jars of pennies. And while the odds may be slim, the possibility always exists that one of these 1994 rarities still lies hidden waiting to be discovered, making the pursuit all the more thrilling. So the lesson here is to never overlook your change and always examine your pennies closely, especially those from the 1990s when a number of famous errors were struck, because you never know if the next coin you hold in your hand could be the legendary 1994 penny worth $234 million, a coin that proves history, mistakes, and chance can turn an everyday object into one of the most valuable collectibles in the world. And this is exactly why collectors, historians, and everyday dreamers continue to be fascinated by coins, for they are more than currency, they are artifacts of time, culture, art, and sometimes accidents that lead to unimaginable fortune. So if you enjoy exploring stories like this and learning how ordinary coins can hold extraordinary value, stay with us as we continue to uncover more incredible coin discoveries that might just inspire you to start checking every penny, dime, and quarter that passes through your hands because the next great treasure could already be sitting in your pocket.